What's up guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm super excited because the Z is getting an upgrade that I have been sitting on for quite a while. Let's get straight into it. This is a new differential. Now if you're asking yourself, why do I need a new differential? The car has one in it. Yeah, I know you guys saw me weld it quite a while ago and it worked. But if you remember, it was a VLSD that I welded, which wasn't ideal. And also the automatic cars, which this car originally was automatic, came with a 3.3 gear ratio or final drive. This is a 3.69. It's actually out of a G37 Sport, I believe, or something like that. So it has a lot higher final drive, which is gonna give me more wheel speed and give me the ability to use third gear a bit more, especially on a track like Apple Valley where it's like tight. And I was kind of at the top of second, but third was too low. So I'm hoping this is gonna change that. And just overall give me, like I said, a lot more wheel speed and a little more get up and go, if you will. So I'm gonna pull this thing apart, get it cleaned up, because we're actually going over to one of my friend's house who's gonna TIG weld this thing, and it's gonna end up a lot nicer than the one that I did. All right, with the cover off, we can get a good look inside, see how an open diff works. So you can see those gears turning right there. Those are called spider gears, and they move independently of the ring gear, which is driven by the pinion gear, which is driven by, this is where the drive shaft connects. So because these move independently of the ring and pinion, it's an open diff, meaning that when this turns, these both aren't forced to turn, and that's not good for drifting. So we're gonna weld this. By welding the diff, you're just welding those spider gears. You can either weld them to each other, or you can put a plate in here and then weld the plate across all the gears, and you're still welding the gears together. So that's what we're gonna do. Thankfully this diff was already drained, so it's pretty clean. I'm just gonna clean it up a bit more, cut some plates to fit in that area, and then we'll head up to my friend's house so we can get to welding. Once I got over to my buddy Nick's house, we took a few minutes to get the diff set up, get everything in the right place, and then we got started on the welding. This guy here welded half the diff, and then he's gonna pass me the torch and say, go ahead. I have like 5 minutes of TIG experience in my whole life. It's gonna go great. This clip here was not meant to be in time lapse, but either way, you can tell he just gave me a few pointers and then said, go ahead. And I kind of just figured it out as I went. Yeah. Well, for not knowing what I'm doing, that's not terrible. I'll take it. 1 out of 10.
I'd say he did a 5 out of 10.
That's not passing, but I'll take it.
One eternity later.
All right, it's been about a week or so since we got the diff welded. Shout out to my friend for helping me out for that. I do appreciate it. So now I finally have some time to throw that thing in the car and see what difference it's going to make. Now, a few days ago, I went out and did some testing because I wanted to get like a baseline for what the car is like now. I know I've driven it at the track, but I wanted to do something within the last couple days, so I have something to reference when I throw this diff in. Now, just so I have it to reference, I guess, while I was testing out in Mexico, I found out that second gear tops out at 65 and third gear tops out at about 90. That's with the current final drive of 3.3. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like with the new one. Now I did a bit more than just straight line speed tests, so enjoy these clips from that little testing bit, and I will catch you back here in just a few. I gotta hook my fans up first. Let me find my fan switch. What did I do with it? There we go. Fans on full blast. All right. bad. Could definitely be better. See if we can get this uphill a little bit better this time around. Hell yeah! That was pretty good. I'm gonna take that. I hope you enjoyed those clips. I know I had a ton of fun making those. It was so much fun. It's been such a long time since I've done anything like that. Obviously, in another country, of course. Anyways, with that out of the way, it's time to throw this new diff in the car. But before we do that, I have to pull the cover off, seal it up, make sure it's good to go, and obviously get the old one out of the Z. So let's get straight to work. Took the extra minute or so to hit the diff cover with some silver paint I had laying around. It's high heat stuff, so hopefully it holds up. Figured while it's off, might as well take a couple extra minutes just to have it look a bit better. While that paint's drying, I'm gonna get the old diff out of the Z. So we're up under the car here, and I almost forgot, but we have to take this drive shaft flange off the diff because it's different in comparison to the one on the G37 diff. Now I started to take the bolts out of the axle. You can see I started to take these out, and then I realized I need to take this off first. So while the axles are still hooked up, I have the parking brake on about as tight as I can get it. I'm gonna try and get this bolt off so we can yank this flange off and put it on the new drive shaft, or the new differential. Old diff is out. Didn't even put up a fight. Came out real easy. Gonna get the other diff all sealed up. I don't have time to install it tonight, so I'm just gonna get it sealed, let the sealant sit overnight, and then I will get the new one put in tomorrow. And I am so excited to take this thing for a spin and see what the difference is like. So I did get that giant bolt off the front of this thing, and this is kind of like press fit onto some splines there. Thankfully I have this horrible 2-prong puller, whatever you want to call this thing. It's a garbage tool, but it's actually working. Let me set you guys up on a tripod and you can see how this thing works. Thankfully, it's not taking much force to get this thing off, because if it would, I know this tool would not hold up to that. But I think we've got it. Oh my goodness, I did not expect that to make a mess. All right, it's the next day. I already started working on the Z. You can see we have the new diff up in there already. Thankfully, it went in without a fight. Now I just have to bolt up the axles, because we still have to get that old drive shaft flange off so we can get the new one on.
346 minutes later.
All right, so for the last hour, maybe even longer, I've been fighting with that nut, trying to get the pinion flange off so I can swap it out. It put up such a fight. It was so much tighter than the other one, and I couldn't figure out how in the world I was gonna get it off. So I made this little bar that you see here, welded 2 nuts or bolts onto the top, and then just bolted them on. So now I have a solid way to lock this down. I had the jack handle actually on this, and then it was wedged like up against the subframe up here. Sorry, this is a terrible angle. Once I finally made this, got it all set up correctly, it just popped loose pretty easy. I guess that's physics for you. I was trying to fight it for hours until I finally gave in, built this stupid little tool, and then it worked perfectly. I should have saved myself the time and built it in the first place, but hey, lesson learned. Here's the setup I have to get this thing off. If you remember on the other one, I used my 2-prong puller. It won't work on this guy because it's a 3-bolt flange. There's nothing for it to grab onto that is like straight across. So I repurposed a crank pulley tool. You can see the bolts aren't exactly straight there, but it is working. You can tell it's already kind of separated up there, so we're headed in the right direction. Hopefully this thing doesn't spill and make a mess on me like the other one did, because this diff is empty, so it shouldn't make a mess. We're about to find out. We got the right flange on, finally, but the fun is not over. If you notice, the pinion shaft here is too long. The drive shaft won't bolt to this thing. We need to cut this down. So I gonna get a sawzall under here or something and chop this thing right off, and then we can finally wrap this job up. Drive shaft is finally bolted on. Let's get this thing full of fluid and back on the ground. We're gonna do a quick check, make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. There's no funny noises with this new diff. Everything sounded fine, everything looked fine, so I think we're gonna be okay. I'm gonna get this thing off jack stands and then we'll take it for a quick spin and see the difference. Here's a little 2-3. All right, just got back from a little test drive. The car feels great. It's definitely a noticeable difference. It feels quite a bit more peppy, if you will. Second gear now tops out at 56, 57. So it's about a 10-mile-an-hour difference, maybe 8. And third now tops out at 82, 83. So about the same. That one's more like 7 to 8 miles an hour difference. But overall, a pretty good difference. It did take way longer than I thought it would. That was definitely a more difficult job than I imagined. Really just with swapping those flanges off the front of the diff. That took so much more work than I imagined. But I'm glad it's done, it's behind me, and it made a good enough difference that I would say it was worth it. Sadly, I don't have the time to take this thing out to Mexico and go test out on that same corner again, but I will definitely make my way out there so I can feel the difference. Overall, like I said, this job was way more difficult than I thought, but it was definitely worth it. The car feels a lot more peppy, and funny enough, there's a lot less road noise now, or drivetrain noise, I should say. Because the old diff was welded with my flux core, if you know anything about welding, flux core welding is like super messy. It splatters a lot. So there's like little weld boogers and things on the ring gear, and it creates a lot of drivetrain noise. Since this new one was TIG welded and done very nicely, there's no drivetrain noise, and it's kind of hilarious what a big difference that made. So between that and the car feeling a bit more sporty or peppy, I'm really happy. The thing feels great. I can't wait to get this thing out on either another track day or, like I said, out in a spot like that again so I can have some fun. Either way, that is going to be an end to this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a hell of a lot of work, but it was definitely fun. As always, guys, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.